in a world where things feel, a little shaky, the old rules for protecting your wealth just don't apply anymore. Finance has become a battlefield. And today, we're going to break down this new landscape, how to navigate it, and how to shield your capital when the game has completely changed.
This quote right here, it gets straight to the point. It completely flips our idea of what ownership even means. We all think that money in the bank is ours, right? But this new reality is telling us something different. It's not just about who you are, it's about where your money is. That's the game changer.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll shatter the illusion of safety in the old system. Then, we'll look at the new weapons of economic warfare. We'll see how the world's wealthiest are already on the move. And then we'll get into the actual playbook for how to protect yourself. And finally, we'll zoom out and see what this all means for the future of money.
Okay, let's dive into our first big idea, the illusion of safety. We've all been taught to see the financial system as this impenetrable fortress. But it turns out, it's a lot more like a fortress made of glass.
Think about it. When things are calm, the system is amazing. Your money's there, transfers happen in an instant, everything just works. But one big geopolitical event, a new conflict, a major political standoff, sends a shockwave through the whole thing. And all of a sudden, that fortress isn't so strong anymore. The glass starts to crack, and your access to your own money, well, it suddenly comes with strings attached.
And this is the real danger we're talking about, jurisdiction risk. This has nothing to do with a bad investment or a market crash. This is pure political risk. It's the idea that a government, with just the stroke of a pen, can decide that the money in your bank account isn't really yours to access anymore. The law of the land is more powerful than your name on the account.
So how does a risk like that actually become a reality? Well, that brings us to our second section, the new economic warfare. This is where we see how financial tools have literally been weaponized.
This idea of economic statecraft isn't some obscure theory anymore. It's frontline foreign policy. It used to be something you'd only see in an all-out war, but now it's used all the time to apply pressure, to coerce, to punish. We're not talking about tanks and jets, but for a person's or a country's wealth, these tools can be just as destructive.
Now, sanctions aren't new, but oh boy have they evolved. We've gone from these really broad, clumsy trade embargoes in the 1930s that honestly didn't work very well to today's incredibly precise, tech-driven financial sanctions. They can surgically cut a single person, a company, or even a whole country out of the global financial system.
So how does an asset freeze actually happen? It's a shockingly fast, three-step knockout punch. First, there's a political decision. Then, boom, the target is unplugged from the plumbing of global finance. Things like the SWIFT network, which is the system banks use to talk to each other. And finally, banks are legally forced to hit the freeze button. That political decision just became a hard financial reality.
Okay, so when faced with these massive new risks, what are people with serious capital actually doing? That brings us to our third section, the Great Wealth Migration. And believe me, this isn't just a theory. It is happening at a scale we've never seen before.
Just look at this number. 128,000. That's how many millionaires are expected to pack up and move to a new country this year. This isn't just a migration of people, it's a massive global movement of capital. They are literally voting with their feet and taking their assets with them to find safer harbors.
And where's everyone going? Well, the top spots tell a fascinating story. The UAE is way out in front, pulling in almost double the number of the US. So what do places like the UAE, the US, and Singapore have in common? They're seen as stable, pro-business, and predictable. Or, in some cases, they're seen as neutral players in a world that's picking sides.
Now for the flip side, where are they leaving from? It's no surprise to see China at the top, as people try to move their wealth out from under heavy state control. But the real shocker here is the United Kingdom. It's losing more millionaires than anyone besides China. That's a huge deal, and it seems to be driven by a mix of things from Brexit to tax changes.
Okay, we've laid out the problem, but what are the actual solutions? This brings us to the most important part, what we're calling the sovereign's playbook. This right here is the fundamental shift in thinking you have to make. A depositor asks, what's my return on investment? But a sovereign, like a country, asks, what's the return of my investment? It's not about chasing gains, it's about survival. It's about realizing that legal security, knowing your assets are protected by different independent sets of laws, is the most valuable currency in the world right now.
This sovereign mindset is built on 4 practical pillars. It's a complete strategy that covers not just what you own, but where you own it, how you can get to it, and how fast you can move it if you have to. Let's walk through each one.
First up, jurisdictional diversification. This is so much more than just having a foreign bank account. It's about strategically placing your capital in neutral countries like Switzerland, Singapore, or the UAE. The whole point is to build financial firewalls so that one government or one political alliance can't freeze everything you own with a single command.
Pillar 2 is just as critical, diversifying your actual assets. You see, a traditional portfolio of stocks, bonds, and cash is completely tied to the banking system. That makes it super vulnerable. A resilient portfolio, on the other hand, balances those with hard physical assets that live outside the digital world, stuff that's much harder to freeze or confiscate electronically.
So what kind of assets are we talking about? Well, things like gold and silver, the original safe haven assets. We're talking about crypto, but not on an exchange, held in an offline cold wallet that only you control. We're talking about a second home in a safe jurisdiction, and even tangible, portable things like fine art or a high-end watch that you can physically carry with you.
All right, for our final section, let's zoom all the way out, because these strategies we've been talking about aren't just for individuals. They're a sign of a massive systemic shift in the way capital moves around the globe.
And get this, it's not just wealthy people who are thinking this way. The sovereigns themselves, the world's central banks, are making the exact same moves. They are buying gold at a rate we haven't seen in decades, gobbling up over 1,000 tons a year. Why? They're actively trying to reduce their dependence on any single currency or financial system.
What this all points to is a slow-motion fragmentation of the global financial order we've known for the last 75 years. We're shifting away from one big integrated system towards a world with multiple competing economic blocks. And in this new world, nations, just like people, are hedging their bets, looking for assets their rivals can't control.
Which leaves us all with one final, crucial question to think about. As the old rules of safety disappear and capital breaks apart into different camps, where does true financial sovereignty actually lie? The search for that answer has become the single biggest challenge for anyone trying to preserve wealth in the 21st century.